When I heard the sounds of celebration coming from downstairs, I was lying on the hospital bed receiving N4 drip. The nurse had just changed my 4 bottle and said with a smile, "Madam, your body is recovering very well, you can be discharged tomorrow." I nodded and looked out the window. From here, I could see my family's garden, which was brightly lit at the moment. It was strange, today was not any special day, so why was it so lively? I picked up my phone to call my husband Jason. As soon as the call connected, I heard his laughter from downstairs. "Today is truly a great day." The sound was so clear it felt as if it was right beside me. I hung up the phone and curiously walked to the window to listen carefully. Finally, "We don't have to act anymore, it's been suffocating." This was my sister-in-law Lydia's voice. "Yes, pretending for 3 years has been exhausting." My mother-in-law Victoria echoed. "Acting? Acting what?" My heartbeat began to accelerate. "Brother, your acting skills are really good. If I didn't know the inside story, I would have been fooled by you." Lydia laughed happily. "Of course, otherwise how could we deceive that stupid woman?" Jason's voice came through. "Stupid woman? Who were they talking about?" I held my breath and pressed close to the window. "Jason, you are really ruthless. Evelyn loves you so much, and you deceived her for 3 years like this." A strange woman's voice sounded. "Evelyn, that was my name." My blood froze instantly. "Love me?" Jason sneered. "She loves money, right? But it's fine, with her as a free nanny, our family has lived quite comfortably these 3 years. Now that she has been diagnosed with leukemia and will die soon, we don't have to pretend anymore." My mother-in-law's words struck like lightning. "Leukemia? When did I get leukemia?" Today's examination report clearly stated that I only had anemia and needed more rest. Could it be? I rushed to the bedside table and searched for today's medical record. It clearly stated, "Evelyn, anemia, recommend nutritional supplements." But why did the doctor tell me it was leukemia? And that I only had 3 months to live? That woman really believed she had a terminal illness. She even sent me a text message earlier saying she would leave all her property to me. Jason's laughter was particularly piercing. I opened my phone and saw the message I had sent an hour ago. "Honey, I may not have much time left, I'll transfer all my property to you, hoping you find a good woman in the future." At the time, I thought I was being noble, thinking of him even on my deathbed. Now it seems I was a complete fool. But to be fair, she has been quite obedient these 3 years. Washing clothes, cooking, taking care of the children, never complaining. Lydia said. "Nonsense, she thought she married for love." Jason mocked. "Little did she know, from the first day, I was just acting." "Including the proposal day?" the strange woman asked. Of course, when I knelt down to propose, I was cursing her stupidity in my heart. But her family's 30 million dowry was indeed attractive. 30 million, that was the entire inheritance left to me by my parents. I unhesitatingly used it as a dowry at the time, thinking it was for our love. The funniest part was on the wedding day, she was moved to tears. Jason continued, "If she knew I was thinking of another woman in my heart, I wonder what her expression would be." Another woman? My heart ached as if cut by a knife. "When is your first love returning to the country?" my mother-in-law asked. "Next month, once Evelyn dies, I can openly be with Luna." First love. Luna. I remembered the contact in Jason's phone labeled Luna. Every time I asked, he said it was his cousin. So from beginning to end, I had been deceiving myself. By the way, remember to collect Evelyn's jewelry, Luna really likes that necklace. My mother-in-law reminded. That necklace was my mother's heirloom, I never dared to wear it and always kept it carefully. I didn't expect they had been eyeing it for a long time. I covered my mouth, tears flowing uncontrollably. Not out of sadness, but out of anger. Anger at my own stupidity, anger at their shamelessness. For 3 years, I had served this family like a nanny. Jason worked overtime until late at night, and I prepared midnight snacks for him. When my mother-in-law was ill, I cared for her in the hospital all night. When my sister-in-law wanted a designer bag, I swiped my card without hesitation. I thought this was what family should do. Now I know that in their eyes, I was just an outsider who could be deceived at will. By the way, her death needs to look natural. Jason said, can't let anyone suspect. Don't worry, I've already taken care of the doctor. At that time, we'll say it's a complication from leukemia. My mother-in-law said lightly. They not only wanted to deceive me but also kill me? My hands trembled as I picked up my phone and turned on the recording function. I must leave evidence. What about Evelyn? She's still in the hospital. Tonight, the nurse will give her an injection, and tomorrow morning there will be good news. Jason said coldly. I looked at the 4 bottle the nurse had left earlier, labeled with my name. So what was changed earlier wasn't nutrient solution, but poison. Fortunately, I discovered it early, otherwise, I would already be dead. Then we'll start preparing for the funeral tomorrow. My mother-in-law said, remember to act sad. Don't worry, don't you know my acting skills? Jason laughed complacently. The laughter grew fainter, they must have gone inside. I collapsed by the window, my mind in chaos. 3 years of marriage, all just a play. I loved sincerely, while they acted flawlessly. If I hadn't accidentally heard these words today, I would have died with gratitude and love for them. Dying inexplicably, and having my inheritance divided by them. Ridiculous, truly ridiculous. I wiped away my tears and pulled out the needle from my hand. Since they think I should die, I'll fulfill their wish. Let me die once and see how long they can keep acting. I quietly left the hospital. Since Jason and the others wanted me dead, I'll die for them first. But before that, I needed to make some preparations. First, the money. The deposits under my name were not much left, most had been transferred to Jason at the time of marriage. But I had a secret account with 1 million that I had secretly saved over these years. This was my backup plan, and I didn't expect it to actually come in handy. Second, identity. I thought of my college roommate Wendy, who was currently working abroad. Recently, she mentioned returning to the country for development and needing an assistant. I sent her a message saying I wanted to go abroad to relax for a while. Wendy replied quickly, Evelyn? What's wrong? You sound off. Me, nothing, just want to change environments. Is it convenient for you? Wendy, of course it's convenient. When are you coming? I'll pick you up. Me, in a few days, I'll handle things here first. With the escape route arranged, the next most important step was faking my death. I needed a perfect opportunity to make everyone believe I was truly dead. After thinking it over, the best method was drowning. Tomorrow was the weekend, and Jason habitually took the whole family to the suburban resort. There was an artificial lake there, rarely visited by people. If I accidentally fell into the lake and the body disappeared, they would surely believe I was dead. The plan was perfect, but I needed a helper. I thought of my driver Lee. Lee was my father's driver before he passed away and had always been loyal to me. Over these 3 years, he had seen me suffer grievances in the Shin family and advised me to leave multiple times. I dialed Lee's phone. Madam, it's so late and you haven't rested yet? Lee's voice carried concern. Lee, I need your help. I told him the entire plan. After listening, Lee was silent for a long time. Madam, are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice, Lee. They want my life, I can't sit and wait for death. All right, I'll help you. But madam, you must protect yourself. I will, thank you Lee. After hanging up, I began preparing what I needed for tomorrow. Change of clothes, documents, cash, and that recording. This recording was my only weapon and would surely be useful in the future. At 3 in the morning, I quietly returned home. Jason was sleeping soundly, with a smug smile on his face. Thinking of how he said to me during the day, wife, you need to take good care of your health, I'll wait for you to come home. Now it seemed so ironic. I lightly packed some essentials, then left a letter on the bedside table. Jason, if you see this letter, it means I'm no longer here. Thank you for taking care of me these 3 years, I was very happy. All my property is for you, I hope you find someone who truly loves you. Evelyn. After writing this letter, I almost wanted to laugh. If Jason saw it, he would probably be very moved. After all, in his mind, I should be a silly woman deeply in love with him. As dawn approached, I returned to the hospital. The nurse was surprised to see me. Madam, why aren't you in the ward? I've been looking for you all night. Sorry, I went out for some fresh air. I feel much better. I pretended as if nothing happened. That's good, you can be discharged today. The nurse said with a smile. The discharge procedures went smoothly. Jason arrived on time to pick me up, his face full of concern. Wife, how do you feel? Much better, thank you for accompanying me. I held his arm, just like usual. Silly, I'm your husband, this is what I should do. He lightly kissed my forehead. His acting was really good. If I didn't know the truth, I would definitely be moved. Back home, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law gathered around to show concern. Evelyn, are you tired? I stewed soup for you. My mother-in-law's smile was particularly kind. Sister-in-law, your complexion looks much better. Lydia said caringly. Watching this family's superb acting, I sneered inwardly. Last night you were still discussing how to kill me, and today you can pretend to be so sincere. Indeed, everyone is an Oscar-worthy actor. By the way, the weather is nice tomorrow, let's go to the resort. Jason suggested, you can relax a bit. Here it comes, the opportunity. Sure, I also want to go out for a walk. I nodded obediently. Jason smiled satisfiedly, a fleeting smugness in his eyes. He must think tomorrow is my death day. Then let them see who is the hunter and who is the prey. That night, I lay in bed listening to Jason's steady breathing. For 3 years, we shared the same bed, and I thought it was the happiest thing in the world. Now I know that sleeping beside me was a demon who wanted my life. Tomorrow, all this would end. Evelyn would die in that lake. But the real me would start a new life. The weather at the resort was particularly sunny. The family drove there chatting and laughing, just like an ordinary weekend outing. Evelyn, look how clear the lake water is. Jason pointed to the distant artificial lake. Yes, very beautiful. I cooperatively showed a happy expression. But in my heart, I thought, are you wanting me to see my own burial place? Why not go for a walk by the lake? My mother-in-law suggested. Good idea, Evelyn can breathe some fresh air. Jason immediately agreed. The group arrived at the lakeside. I pretended to be attracted by the scenery and slowly walked toward the deeper water. Be careful, don't get too close. Jason said concernedly. It's fine, I'll just look. I continued forward. Actually, I had already seen Lee's figure. He was hiding in the nearby woods, ready to assist me at any time. Evelyn! Suddenly, Lydia shouted. I accidentally turned back, slipped, and fell into the lake. Help! I shouted as I fell into the water. The lake water was cold, but I had known how to swim since childhood. This depth was nothing to me. Evelyn! Evelyn! Jason shouted from the shore, sounding very anxious. But I noticed he didn't jump in to save me. Call the police quickly. Call the rescue team. My mother-in-law was also shouting. I struggled in the water and swam to the other side of the lake when they weren't paying attention. There was a reed thicket that could block the view. Where is she? How did she disappear? Lydia said nervously. She might have sunk, this lake is quite deep. Jason's voice trembled. I didn't know if it was real nervousness or acting. I hid in the reed thicket, watching them anxiously search from the shore. The rescue team arrived quickly and began searching the lake. No traces were found. The rescue captain shook his head and said, she might already. Impossible. She must still be alive. Jason collapsed and shouted. His acting was superb. If I didn't know the truth, I would definitely be moved. The search continued all day, of course with no results. Because I had already left the lake area with Lee's help. Sorry, we did our best. The rescue captain said helplessly, the lake bottom is complicated, she might. I don't believe it. My wife won't die. Jason rushed to the lakeside, tears streaming down. These tears were real, but not because of love, but fear. If I really died, how would he explain to the outside world? After all, we had just returned from the hospital, and now an accident happened, it could easily raise suspicions. Jason, please accept our condolences. The relatives who came to help comforted him. Evelyn left too suddenly, she was so young. Yes, just married for 3 years, what a pity. Hearing these words, I almost wanted to jump out and say, I'm still alive. But I couldn't, at least not yet. In the evening, the search work temporarily stopped. We'll continue searching tomorrow, we must find her. Jason said with red eyes. Jason, take care of yourself. My mother-in-law patted his shoulder. The family sadly left the lakeside. I hid in the distance, watching them get into the car. Jason sat in the passenger seat, and I saw him secretly sigh in relief. So his earlier collapse was all an act. Now that no one was watching, he could finally relax. Let's go, head home to prepare for the funeral. My mother-in-law said in the car. Their car drove away, and only then did I come out from my hiding place. Lee was already waiting by the roadside. Madam, are you okay? He asked concernedly. I'm fine, thank you, Lee. I changed into the clean clothes prepared in advance. What next? First go to my friend's place, then abroad. I glanced toward the resort, let them be happy for a while first. Madam, you must be careful. I will. Sitting in Lee's car, I took out my phone to check. Jason had already posted on Facebook, wife, wait for me to find you. Accompanied by our wedding photo, his eyes red, looking very sincere. The comment section was full of consoling words, Jason, be strong. Believe in miracles. Sister-in-law will be fine. Looking at these comments, I couldn't help but sneer. If these people knew the truth, I wonder what their expressions would be. But soon they would know. I wouldn't let Jason and the others off easy. Since they wanted me dead, I'll die for them to see. Then slowly let them taste despair. The game has just begun. A week later, I was sitting on a plane to Los Angeles. Domestic news was still reporting my disappearance incident. Wealthy family's young madam suspected drowned, husband grief-stricken. Search for a week yields no results, fate unknown. In an interview, Jason was tearful, I believe my wife is still alive, I'll wait for her to come back forever. His acting was getting better and better. Wendy picked me up at the airport, and her first words upon seeing me were, Evelyn, you've lost so much weight. Some things happened recently. I said simply. Was it that Jason bullying you? I told you long ago that man is unreliable. Wendy said indignantly. Saying that now is useless, I need to start over. No problem, my studio is just short of a designer. Didn't you study interior design? Good, thank you, Wendy. In my first month in Los Angeles, I lived peacefully. Drawing in the studio during the day, studying English at night, life was simple and fulfilling. Occasionally, I checked domestic news to follow Jason's activities. He was still pretending to be a devoted husband, often taking photos by the lake where I disappeared. It's been a month, I'm still waiting for you to come home. I dreamed of you again today, in the dream, you said you were doing well. Netizens were deeply moved, what a good man, this devotion is so rare. Hope sister-in-law is safe. Jason, take care of your health. Looking at these comments, I wanted to laugh. If these people heard the recording I made, I wonder if they would still sympathize with Jason. But now wasn't the time. I wanted them to taste success first, then fall hard. 2 months later, I received news from home. Jason's first love had returned to the country. Her name was Luna, a returnee designer, very beautiful. She was reportedly Jason's college classmate, went abroad for further studies after graduation, and now returned for career development, conveniently living near Jason's home. Jason, are you okay? I heard about Evelyn. Luna held Jason's hand in the cafe. I'm fine, just miss her a lot. Jason smiled bitterly. You need to be strong, Evelyn's spirit in heaven wouldn't want to see you like this. Luna, it's good to have you by my side. Jason looked at her affectionately. This scene was captured by paparazzi and immediately trended. Jason suspected of cheating, intimate with beautiful designer. Wife missing for 2 months, husband dates another woman. The comment section exploded, scumbag. Wife's body not even cold and he's finding a new love. Thought he was devoted, turns out he's an actor. Poor sister-in-law, entrusted to the wrong person. Facing public pressure, Jason quickly clarified, Luna is my friend, she was comforting me. My feelings for Evelyn are true as heaven and earth, please don't misunderstand. But netizens didn't buy it, do friends need to hold hands? Explanation is cover-up. Men's mouths are deceiving ghosts. Seeing this news, I was satisfied inwardly. The first step of the plan succeeded. Let Jason struggle in public opinion, experience the taste of being questioned. But this was just an appetizer. The real show was yet to come. I took out my phone and sent a text to a mysterious number, can start the next step. Soon received a reply, received, boss. This was the private investigator I hired at great expense. Specifically responsible for collecting dirt on Jason's family. Over 3 years living in that home, I knew their secrets like the back of my hand. Jason appeared as a successful businessman but actually evaded taxes. My mother-in-law often gambled behind the family's back and lost a lot of money. My sister-in-law appeared obedient but privately entangled with several men. I knew all these secrets but didn't want to say them before. Now it's different. Since they were unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. I wanted them to know that Evelyn wasn't so easy to bully. Even dead, I could make them wish they were dead. 3 months later, my life in Los Angeles was gradually improving. Wendy's studio was developing well, and the projects I handled received good reviews from clients. Evelyn, your design talent was truly buried. Wendy praised, how did you think of getting married back then? Young and ignorant. I smiled bitterly. It's not too late now, you're only 28, life has infinite possibilities. Indeed, I felt like I was alive again. Without the Shin family's exploitation, I could finally do what I liked. That night, as usual, I browsed domestic news. Suddenly saw an explosive message, Shin Group suspected of tax evasion, under investigation by tax authorities. Jason himself restricted from leaving the country. I felt a secret thrill. The private investigator was efficient, results came so quickly. Clicking into the news details, there were detailed materials and evidence. All provided by me to the detective earlier, including Jason's hidden ledgers and transfer records. Netizens exploded, so he's a tax violator. No wonder so rich, turns out from tax evasion. Wife just disappeared and trouble comes, could it be retribution? Jason urgently held a press conference, trying to clarify, these are all slanders, our company has always operated lawfully. But with solid evidence, his defense seemed weak. Worse, this affected the company's stock price. Shin Group stocks hit limit down continuously, market value evaporated billions. Jason was overwhelmed, his hair turned much whiter. Jason, what now for the company? My mother-in-law asked anxiously at home. First find a way to get through this crisis, if not, sell some assets. Jason said tiredly. But most of those assets were bought with Evelyn's money. Lydia reminded. She's dead, why care so much? Jason said impatiently. Hearing this, I was more certain of my choice. These people didn't deserve my sympathy. In the following days, bad news came one after another. The tax bureau not only demanded back taxes but also fines. Total amount up to $200 million. Shin Group couldn't come up with that much. What to do? Banks won't loan, other companies unwilling to cooperate. Jason said at the board meeting. Why not mortgage the house? A director suggested. That's our ancestral home, can't sell. My mother-in-law firmly opposed. Then what other ways? Everyone looked at each other, no good solutions. At this time, a savior appeared. An overseas investment company expressed willingness to acquire part of Shin Group's equity. The offer is reasonable, and they're willing to help us through the crisis. The lawyer said on the phone. Then what are we waiting for? Sign quickly. Jason said excitedly. Little did he know, this so-called overseas investment company was found through Wendy's connections. I used my own money plus borrowed funds to establish this shell company. The purpose was to gradually erode Shin Group. The signing ceremony was grand. Jason shook hands with the representative smilingly. Thank you for your company's support, we will surely cooperate pleasantly. Of course, we are confident in Shin Group's prospects. The representative said smiling. If Jason knew this representative was actually an actor I hired, I wonder what his expression would be. After signing, Shin Group indeed overcame the immediate crisis. But the cost was ceding 30% equity. Moreover, according to the contract terms, if the company fell into trouble again, the overseas investment company had the right to further acquire equity. This was the trap I set. Jason thought he was saved, but was actually stepping toward the abyss. And I, the one who should be dead, was secretly controlling everything. The revenge had just begun. Half a year later, I almost couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. Short hair, exquisite makeup, looking capable and confident. Evelyn, you've changed so much. Wendy sighed, completely like a different person. People always need to grow. I replied smiling. In this half year, I not only achieved success in my career but also learned many skills I never imagined before. Investment and finance, business negotiations, legal clauses. I needed to make myself strong enough to complete the next plans. By the way, do you still follow domestic news? Wendy asked. Occasionally. I pretended to be casual. Actually, I followed Jason's activities every day. Recently, his days weren't easy. Although the company was temporarily stable, his personal life was a mess. His relationship with Luna was repeatedly hyped by media, reputation worsening. More fatally, my mother-in-law's gambling problem was exposed. Victoria owes $1 million in gambling debts, wealthy family image collapses. Turns out my mother-in-law had been gambling in Macau these years, losing a lot. Creditors came to the door, causing a scene at Shin's home. Mrs. Victoria, when will you repay the money you owe? Give me a little more time, I'll definitely repay. My mother-in-law begged, crying. Time? You've already delayed for 3 months. This scene was captured by paparazzi and immediately headlined. Jason was forced to step in and clear the debt for his mother. But this further damaged Shin family's reputation. Jason, sorry, I didn't mean to. My mother-in-law said guiltily. Mom, how could you gamble? We're already in enough trouble. Jason reproached. I just wanted to win some money to help the family, didn't expect to lose more and more. Forget it, it's happened, don't gamble again. Although Jason forgave his mother verbally, he must be angry inside. After all, the company had just stabilized, and now had to pay a large sum for debt. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Let them have internal conflicts and fight each other. Next was my sister-in-law Lydia. I had the private investigator follow her and discovered her secret. Lydia appeared as a good girl but was actually dating 3 men simultaneously. And she was pregnant, not knowing whose child it was. If this secret was exposed, it would be another heavy blow to the Shin family. I had the detective anonymously send the evidence to entertainment reporters. Soon, the news came out, Shin family heiress has chaotic private life, involved with multiple men, wealthy socialite turns out to be a social butterfly, family image completely collapses. Photos showed Lydia intimately dating different men. Solid evidence, undeniable. Jason trembled with anger upon seeing the news. Lydia. How could you do such things? Brother, Lydia stammered, unable to speak. You've disgraced our family. What now? Media are mocking us. My mother-in-law paced anxiously. The Shin family fell into an unprecedented crisis. Not only the company impacted, personal reputations completely ruined. Jason originally wanted to develop his relationship with Luna, but now even meeting was a problem. Jason, I think we should separate temporarily. Luna said on the phone. Luna, don't leave me, I need you. Jason begged. Sorry, I can't bear this pressure. Let's talk after the storm passes. Luna hung up, leaving Jason to face it all alone. Seeing this, a surge of pleasure rose in my heart. This was the price of betrayal. Jason thought deceiving me to death would let him be with his first love, but in the end, it was all for nothing. But this wasn't enough. I wanted them to be completely desperate, just like they wanted me to be. The next plan should be launched. A year later, I returned to the country as Linda. Plastic surgery subtly changed my appearance, plus new hairstyle and attire, even acquaintances would hardly recognize me. I established an investment company specializing in acquiring promising enterprises. The first target was the crumbling Shin Group. Linda, you should know Shin Group's situation, now is a good time for acquisition. My assistant reported. Arrange a meeting with Jason. I said calmly. Okay, I'll contact right away. 3 days later, Jason arrived at my office as scheduled. After a year, he looked much haggard. Hair graying, eyes tired, completely without his former vigor. Linda, thank you for your interest in our company. Jason said respectfully. I wore sunglasses, deliberately lowering my voice. Jason, I heard your company has encountered some difficulties? Yes, but we are confident in overcoming them. Can confidence be eaten as food? I sneered, as I understand, your company's debt problem is quite serious. Jason's face changed. Linda, your information is well informed. As an investor, of course I need to understand clearly. I flipped through the materials, tax issues, debt crisis, family scandals. What value does Shin Group still have? Linda, our company's core assets are still very valuable. Jason explained hurriedly. Then it depends on Jason's sincerity. I stood up. My acquisition price is 30% of market value, either accept or go bankrupt. 30%? That's too low. Jason stood up excitedly. Jason, do you have any choice left? I looked at him coldly. Your company won't last this month. Jason was silent for a long time, finally lowering his head. I need to discuss with my family. Good, I'll give you 3 days. I sat back down, no waiting after expiration. After Jason left, I took off my sunglasses, looking at the city view outside the floor-to-ceiling window. A year ago, I was treated like a fool in this city. A year later, I returned to acquire everything of theirs. This feeling was truly exhilarating. That night, the Shin family held an emergency meeting. 30% price, this is simply robbery. My mother-in-law said angrily. But Mom, do we have other choices? Banks are urging debts, suppliers demanding money. Jason said helplessly. Why not think of other ways? Lydia suggested. What other ways? Now who is willing to cooperate with us? Jason smiled bitterly. Indeed, after this year's blows, Shin family's reputation was ruined. No one wanted to do business with them, let alone invest. Jason, what do you think this Linda's background is? My mother-in-law asked. Not sure, but she seems very capable. And? Jason frowned. I always feel her voice is a bit familiar. Familiar? Maybe an illusion. Jason shook his head. If he knew the person sitting opposite him was his dead wife, I wonder what his expression would be. 3 days later, Jason came to my office again. Linda, we agree to your terms. He said with difficulty. Very good, this is a wise choice. I took out the prepared contract, sign it. Jason took the contract, his hand slightly trembling. This contract meant giving up the ancestral business, but he had no choice. Linda, I want to ask, after the acquisition, can our family members still hold positions in the company? Of course, but it depends on performance. I said lightly, if abilities are insufficient, we'll have to ask you to leave. Hearing this, Jason's face looked even worse. But he still signed the contract. From this moment, Shin Group officially changed hands. And I, Evelyn, became Jason's boss. This feeling was more satisfying than any revenge. Pleasure cooperating, Jason. I extended my hand. Jason shook it reluctantly, pleasure cooperating. After he left, I sat alone in the office, looking at the contract. Jason's signature on it was crooked, obviously signed under immense pressure. Recalling a year ago when they celebrated my death in the garden, I couldn't help but sneer. Now who is celebrating? But this wasn't enough. I wanted them to know what true despair was. After the acquisition, I entered Shin Group as the new boss. On the first day at work, all employees were discussing this mysterious Linda. Heard the new boss is young and a strong woman. Jason is now just an employee, truly fortunes change. Hope the new boss can lead the company out of trouble. I wore a black business suit, stepped in high heels into the CEO's office. This was once Jason's exclusive space, now mine. Linda, these are the company's detailed materials. The secretary handed me a stack of files respectfully. Thank you, call Jason over. I said calmly. A few minutes later, Jason knocked and entered. Seeing me in his former position, his expression was complex. Linda, you called for me? He said cautiously. Sit. I pointed to the opposite chair, let's talk about the company's reorganization plan. Jason sat, waiting. First, the company needs layoffs. I flipped through materials, too many redundant management layers. Layoffs? Jason tensed, Linda, layoffs now will affect morale. Is morale important, or the company's survival? I countered. Jason was speechless. Second, all executive salaries need re-evaluation. I continued, if abilities don't match salary, either reduce pay or leave. This. Jason's face was ugly. What, have opinions? I looked up at him. No, I just feel the changes are too fast. Mr. Jason, the company is now mine, I have the right to decide everything. I deliberately emphasized, Mr. Jason, you are now just an employee. Hearing this, Jason's face turned red. The former CEO Jason, now being lectured like this, his mood imaginable. But he didn't dare refute, because he needed this job. Also, I'm preparing to establish a new department specifically for company image rebuilding. I continued, if Mr. Jason is interested, you can apply for this position. Image rebuilding? Jason asked puzzled. Yes, specifically handling negative news and PR crises. I sneered, with Mr. Jason's experience, it should be very suitable. This was said insidious. Jason had been handling his family's scandals this year, indeed very experienced. Linda, are you humiliating me? Jason finally couldn't hold back. Humiliating? I pretended surprise, Mr. Jason is overthinking, I'm giving you an opportunity. Opportunity? Otherwise, do you think I'd let you stay in the company? I stood up, looking down at him, with your current abilities and reputation, which company would want you? Jason was rendered speechless. Indeed, after this year's turmoil, his reputation in the business world was ruined. Besides here, he had no better choices. Consider it, Mr. Jason. I sat back down, give me an answer tomorrow. After Jason left, I laughed alone in the office for a long time. Seeing him humble before me, the year's frustrations were finally released. This was the effect I wanted. Let them know what identity reversal is, what the pain of disparity is. That afternoon, I met my mother-in-law and Lydia again. They came to plead. Linda, Jason is a good person, please take care of him. My mother-in-law said, crying. Yes, Linda, my brother has borne too much pressure, give him a chance. Lydia begged beside. Watching these two once arrogant women cry before me, a surge of pleasure rose in my heart. Recalling a year ago their mockery in the garden, truly ironic. I can consider, but there's a condition. I said coldly. What condition? My mother-in-law asked hurriedly. Jason must publicly apologize for this year's scandals to the public. Apologize? Lydia puzzled, what does this have to do with the company? The company's image is damaged because of your family's scandals. I said righteously, if no apology, how to restore the company's credibility? My mother-in-law and Lydia looked at each other. Public apology meant admitting all mistakes, a huge humiliation for Shin family. But for Jason's job, they seemed to have no choice. I'll discuss with Jason. My mother-in-law said hesitantly. Good, I'll wait for your reply. After they left, I picked up the phone and dialed the private investigator's number. Continue monitoring them, report any movements immediately. Understood, boss. Now it was time to close the net. I wanted Jason and the others to thoroughly understand that Evelyn wasn't so easy to bully. Even dead, I could make them wish for death. 3 days later, Jason appeared at the press conference. Pale-faced, dazed eyes, like a soul-emptied person. Dear media friends, today I want to apologize for the events of the past year. His voice trembled. Reporters below excitedly pressed shutters. This was big news, the former wealthy young master publicly admitting wrongs. I apologize for my tax issues, for my mother's gambling, for my sister's chaotic private life. Jason admitted one by one. With each sentence, his back bent lower. Most importantly, I apologize for my wife Evelyn's matter. At this point, his voice choked, it was me who didn't protect her, my dereliction caused the tragedy. The audience was silent, reporters waiting for more. I know the outside world has many doubts about whether I truly loved my wife. Jason raised his head, tears in eyes, I want to say, I did love her, but in the wrong way. This was cleverly said, admitting error while expressing emotion. From today, I'll strive to atone, using the rest of my life to commemorate my wife. He bowed deeply. After the conference, the internet exploded, Jason finally apologized, looked sincere. Men's tears are worthless, now remembering to love his wife? Anyway, daring to admit errors is worthy of recognition. Poor Evelyn, forever unable to see this. Looking at these comments, I sneered endlessly. If netizens knew the wife Jason claimed to deeply love was actually alive, and the mastermind forcing his apology, I wonder their reactions. After the apology, Jason's image did improve. At least in public eyes, he changed from a cold-blooded scumbag to a man who knows and corrects errors. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Because next, I would give them the final blow. Let them despair completely in hope. That night, I appeared as Linda at a charity gala. This was a high society gathering, attended by many business elites. Jason was also on the invite list. I wore a silver evening gown, exquisite makeup, completely unlike my original appearance. Linda, you look beautiful tonight. Someone came to chat. Thank you. I replied politely. Not far, Jason was talking with other businessmen. He looked recovered some spirit, perhaps because the apology gained approval. Jason, heard you're working under Linda recently? Someone asked. Yes, Linda is very capable, I've learned a lot from her. Jason answered politely. Able to bend and stretch, that's a true businessman. As they chatted, I slowly walked over. Mr. Jason, didn't expect you here. I greeted deliberately. Linda, you are radiant tonight. Jason complimented. Thank you, mind if we chat? Of course not. We walked to a relatively quiet corner. Mr. Jason, today's apology was successful. I said directly. Thank you for Linda's suggestion, I think it was what should be done. Is it? I looked at him meaningfully. Then if I tell you Evelyn is actually alive, what would you do? Jason was stunned instantly, the wine glass almost dropping. Linda, what did you say? He stammered. I said, if Evelyn is alive, do those words you said earlier still count? I continued probing. How is this possible? She clearly. Jason paled. Clearly what? Clearly should be dead? I sneered, or clearly killed by you? I don't understand what you're saying. Jason tried to evade. Jason, see clearly who I am. I took off my sunglasses, staring into his eyes. At that moment, Jason's face showed a ghostly expression. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like struck by lightning. No. Impossible, you are. He trembled, unable to say complete words. I am Evelyn, your dear wife. I showed a weird smile, surprised. Jason completely collapsed. He slumped in the chair, hands covering face, body trembling. How possible, you clearly died. He muttered. Dead? I looked down at him. I should indeed be dead, according to your plan. You know everything? Jason raised his head, eyes full of fear. I know everything. I took out my phone, played that recording, 3 years of acting, quite hard, huh? Hearing his own voice in the recording, Jason was completely desperate. He knew everything was over. After Jason collapsed, I didn't leave immediately. Instead, I sat quietly opposite, appreciating his painful expression. Evelyn, no, Linda. He tried to stand, but his legs were too weak. Call me Linda, Evelyn is already dead. I said coldly, died in that lake, died in your plan. Sorry. Jason began crying. I know I was wrong, really wrong. Now you know wrong? I mocked, laughing. Then 3 years ago when you celebrated in the garden, why didn't you know wrong? Jason was stunned. You heard? Not only heard, but recorded. I shook my phone. Want to hear the full version? He shook his head frantically. No, please no. Afraid of what? This is your masterpiece. I continued tormenting him. 3 years of perfect performance, Oscars should award you. Evelyn, I beg you to forgive me, I really love you. Jason cried like a child. Love me? I sneered. Love me and want to poison me? Love me and deceive me into terminal illness? Love me and plan future with another woman? Those were all momentary confusion. Momentary confusion for 3 years? I stood up. Jason, stop acting, I've seen enough of your skills. Jason completely despaired, slumping in the chair. All the blows he experienced this year were orchestrated by this dead wife before him. He now understood that Evelyn was never the weak woman to be slaughtered. She had enough wisdom and means to make all who hurt her pay the price. What else do you want? Jason asked desperately, voice trembling. What I wanted, I've already got. I adjusted my clothes, preparing to leave. Have you tasted despair? You wanted me to despair back then, now it's your turn. Evelyn, please give me a chance, I'm willing to compensate with my life. Too late. I interrupted, some hurts once caused can never be undone. You wanted Evelyn dead, she is indeed dead. Now I am Linda, someone you can never reach. After saying this, I turned and left the gala. Behind came Jason's desperate cries, but I would never look back. 3 years of marriage, 1 year of revenge, finally ended. Evelyn was indeed dead, died that rainy night, in their conspiracy. But I lived on, living more brilliantly than ever. The Shin family's era ended, my new era had just begun. Walking out of the hotel, I looked up at the starry sky. Tomorrow, I had more important things to do. Build my own business empire, prove Evelyn's value with strength. As for those Shin family people, let them slowly rot in the lies they wove. This is the price of betrayal.